Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
And welcome back to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about grit and growth. And I'm excited to have with me Miss Angela Lucas, who is the co-founder at Tolhouse, a private social club located in the historic Vistula district of Toledo, Ohio. She has been a former assistant to the mayor of the city of Toledo, a co-manager of the City of Toledo Human Relations Commission, director on the Cherry Street Mission Board of Directors. She's been on the Eberly Center for Women's Board. She's a 2018 20 Under 40 winner and a speaker on a number of topics of leadership, branding, personal purpose. She sits on the board's Directors of the United Way, and she's spoken for the Women Who Lead Conference and so many others. I've seen her personally speak at summits and a number of venues where she is giving encouragement to so many others. This is only just a tidbit of her bio. She's so involved in so much, and I can't wait to just welcome her to the show. So hello, Angela.
Hello. Thank you for having me. That was quite the intro. Thank you so much.
Yes. And, I'm going to start off because you have such a wide variety of experience and background and even education. What are you passionate about?
Well, I'm passionate about a number of different things, and I feel like it changes, from season to season. So currently, right now, I'm really passionate about teaching women how to take care of their souls as they're building their businesses and running companies. And so that's my area of passion right now.
You have so much experience in that too, because you've not just the co-founder of Toll House, you've got other businesses that you're managing as well.
Yes. So I am a serial entrepreneur with my husband. So we have a marketing agency, we have, a market coming soon, and just a number of different projects that we are working on. Attention is split in different areas. And so again, that's why right now I'm just super passionate about making sure that I'm taking care of my soul and teaching other serial entrepreneurs how to do the same, because burnout is a real thing and we want to make sure we don't hit it.
Yeah, there's something said about that with the grit and growth. And I recently saw you speak with a mentee of yours where you were helping guide her career in this serial entrepreneurship landscape. Can you describe a little bit what that's been like for you?
Yeah, there have been seasons in my life where I've had mentees, and I think that maybe they were a little bit premature because I believe so much in the mentee-mentor relationship. And for the record, if I'm allowed to say, you are my mentor, and so
Oh,
I value you so much. But I really appreciate that relationship, and I think it's absolutely essential for people to have. And so I've always tried to pour back as much as I can. But I think in the season that I was in with little babies, it was just a lot and very hard to do. So I never felt like I was as proficient in it as I wanted to be. But I feel like right now I'm in a season in my life where my children are older, a lot more independent. And we've actually hit some major milestones as businesses that I feel like, all right, I've been in this for a good minute. And I kind of have learned a thing or two. Not that I know everything, because I believe that we're always growing,
yes.
always learning, and we
Yes.
never will know it all. But I feel like I have a solid foundation now where I can confidently pour into someone else who is building their business and say, hey, you might want to watch out for this, or did you think about this? Or, tell me any issues that you're having. Maybe we can talk it out. So I think that's where I am in my mentee and mentor relationship.
And that says a lot too about knowing where you are. I talk so much to groups and organizations that we have as clients about self awareness, organizational awareness. You are highly aware. It's what I've always loved about your leadership style and your priorities. And you're native to Toledo. You're a wife. You're a mother. And I think those pieces, being a wife and mother, sound like they came first.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. That was my highest priority and my greatest accomplishment, and will always be my greatest accomplishment. I say, one of my favorite scriptures is, what good is it to gain the whole world and lose your soul? And for me, I apply that to my life. What good is it to build all these businesses and companies and have all this success and be recognized if I haven't been diligent in my own household? So my children absolutely are always first for me. And I've built my life around that. But again, they're more independent now and they need me a lot less than they did when they were coming up. I mean, I have a high schooler now, which is crazy insane.
I
So
know.
she wants, she's at the stage where she's like, I got it, I'm good, I'll be back, sort of thing. So, that's where I am. But, with anything, it takes time. It's the long game, especially business is the long game. And so if you are stressing out because you are a mother of small children right now and you can't do all the things, then I say that's absolutely great. That's where you should be right now, is in the season where I can't do all the things and I'm recognizing that. So here's what I can do. Here's what I can give, because seasons change. And before you know it, now you have way more time
Mhm.
to pour into your company and to other people.
Well, I will say, and this is an old saying too, is that you'll never get away from being a parent. And even with mine that went through the teenage years and now are out, I think of my daughter too, who's in her 20s, they still do come home. They still do need you. And building that mother daughter relationship, even when they're older, and keeping that touchstone. There is a time when they don't want you around, and then they all of a sudden they're back, and that's a fantastic feeling.
I hear that someone told me that recently, like, this is not going to be over. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Well, you're talking about mentoring and the mentees and the seasons, and of course, understanding that self awareness of what's a priority. And we talk about with pen leaders on understanding and being sharp with their experience and their education, the strength of character, and then being able to have a pathway, staying straight on whatever your plan is, and then being able to pivot. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into the serial entrepreneurship and why these different aspects of it? What attracted you to them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, quite honestly speaking, I married an entrepreneur. And so, I kind of married into entrepreneurship, but then I grew to love it because I saw something being built from nothing, and I really gravitated toward it. I think that my husband and I complement each other in different ways. He sees things, one way and I see them another, but they're usually very complementary to one another. So I just kind of said, "Oh, I think I want to join this." And so he's like, "Yeah, come on board." And so we've been doing the thing together ever since, which has been a very long time now. And so that's how I kind of got into it. But I think you're absolutely right. The thing that I've learned over the span of these 15 years is that you absolutely have to be able to pivot. I mean, pivot is the name of the game. So you need a plan, you need to stick to the plan, and you need to do the plan. But there will inevitably come a time and point where you will have to pivot. And that's just the nature of the beast. Nothing stays the same. Everything, moves and changes. Nothing is static. So we've had to pivot so many times when we thought we had the best idea for one thing and then it didn't work out. You really can't get emotional about that. I,
Mhm.
I feel like business, there's a level of emotion that you have to remove. And is it working or is it not? And if it's not working, then we need to pivot and we need to change the game plan. So you are always continuously doing that. And the businesses that don't do that always fail. And so for me, it's kind of like the example when you have a mom and pop store and they've been around forever. And then here comes a big box store down the street. And all of a sudden they want to paint the outside of their facade, and they want to pick up the garbage around their
Mhm.
parking lot. Well, those are things that you always have to do forever and not wait until your competitor comes into town to, clean your windows off. And so, and offer new products and see what's out there on the market. Like, are you keeping up with the market changes and the trends? And so you always have to be pivoting. And if you don't, you will be swallowed up by the people who do pivot.
I've noticed that too. The best compliment I believe you can also get is people who are copying what you're doing. It is a
Yes.
compliment. I recently had a conversation in protecting your intellectual property. And we had actually a podcast on it. And there's one thing about copying, and there's one point with just trying to just take the idea and run with it and then claim
Hmm.
it's your own.
Yeah.
I think that what you're saying here with the pivot, can you think of some of the most challenging pivots you've had?
I think specifically with Tolhouse, there's been a number of different pivots. We have spent, lots of money saying that this particular space will work for this. And then, when the market comes in, they're like, that's not what we want. That doesn't work for us. Here's what we actually want. And so it's like, oh, okay, we have to pivot and we have to make moves so that we continue to garner the people that we want to come in. And so that's probably a continual thing for us and changing thing for us. So I've had to do that. And I spoke earlier about, just knowing the season you're in. And I think you pivot personally too. So there are times where maybe one week I'm not working as much as I am the following week. And so I think it's always this dance of not only operationally what needs to change. Do we have too much staff? Do we have not enough staff? What season are we in? All of those pivots, and then even personal pivots is like, what am I able to offer this week? What can I offer? So I think it's very much a holistic dance every day, all the time for women in business.
I was going to ask you too about that because of just being in a position of having the ability to make those choices that you need to make and doing them quickly. That's one thing about entrepreneurship is those that are not stuck in a place and that they'll just stay in that spot and just say, well, the market will change and I'll just keep doing what I'm going to do and people will catch on. I think that's a big mistake. And I think you're able to read the market. And I will say that I want to make sure our listeners knows I am a proud member of Toll House and I have seen the fantastic work that you all have done. And it is just amazing. And I just feel I'm glad to be part of the journey to help support it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can you talk a little bit about the characteristics? Now, you've mentioned some of them about the pivot, but what are some of the major characteristics that you would suggest anyone who wants grit and growth, who wants to think about being an entrepreneur, what would you advise them?
Uh, character plays such a strong role in being a successful entrepreneur. I think the lack of character is probably the first downfall. I think that you have to have grit, which I believe can be developed. But I also think you have to have such a high dose of humility. You have to recognize that the people you're serving don't have to be there. They can be anywhere else spending their money on anything else, but they decide to spend it with you. And I think that is very humbling to me. Should be humbling to any business owner in the fact that they go the extra mile to make sure that their customer, that their member, or whoever it is that they're serving gets the best service. And it's painful as an entrepreneur when they don't receive the best service. And, it's nothing is perfect. We learn so much by our mistakes, and we make mistakes every day. But we also want to get better and we want to improve and we want to learn from those mistakes. So while we hate when someone's unhappy with our service, it does give us an opportunity to be better. And I think if you ever lose that desire to please your customer base, I think that is the first sign that you are going to fail and probably fail quickly.
I think asking for feedback and receiving that feedback is critically important as well. And whatever that feedback would be, and then being ready to step in to that. How can I fix it? And what can we do to work together? I think that says a lot. And those that are in the business, I think you made a great point, a number of points, but just the length of time because you were able to make those changes. Those statistics about businesses failing within a certain amount of time, some of those statistics are true in some industries, but there's others that have labored along, have just barely made it. And then I'm not even sure they're really in business. They're pseudo in business, I call that. If you're not listening to your customer, I think that's a problem.
Right.
Yeah. So here's some fun questions. You ready for this?
Yes.
What are you reading and watching? And I say that because I'm gonna give you time to think. You have book clubs. You have some other fun things that you do, and I know this. I'm always curious. What are you reading and what are you watching?
Well, I believe so wholeheartedly in businesswomen, women, period, reading both a nonfiction and a fiction book. And so I think we have to take our minds off of what we're doing and go to another world and be inspired by that world, or even just be entertained by that world. And so for my fiction book, I am reading The Secret Book of Flora Lee, which is, I am super bad at remembering authors' names, so I can't give you the author, but it is just a delightful little book. And so I'm reading that for fiction. And then my nonfiction book is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I actually do remember his name. It's Mark Comer. And so that's my nonfiction book. And so I again always try to read a combination of the two. And then I'm not really a big TV person. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't watch a lot of shows. I kind of watch the same thing over and over if I need to like relax and wind down at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that is always like Downton Abbey. So I've probably seen that whole thing 800 trillion times. And I'll just put it on if I need to just wind down and relax. So that's probably what I'm watching right now.
I get that. Some people ask me and say, well, what do you watch? And I said, I don't really watch a whole lot of television myself. But when I wind down, I'm like, okay, I'll put an old episode of Love Boat or Fantasy Island. That's just keep it simple,
Oh.
So, in anything that you would advise if someone has decided, and I'm thinking about those that got one foot in one world and one foot in the out, any last suggestions you would make for those that are not sure they're entrepreneurs and that they are thinking about it? And, can you give some advisement about that as we wrap up?
Yeah, well, I probably have the least popular answer to that question. And that is, if you are an entrepreneur, you are. If you have, any question around it, then maybe it's not the time to jump. But because you have to have a solid, I'm going for this and I'm going to make this happen. When you get to that point, you're ready. But if you're still kind of like, I don't know if I'm an entrepreneur, I don't know if this could work, I don't know, let me try it, you're not ready. So the first thing I would say is to get absolutely clear. Is this what you want to do or is it not? Because it's not for the faint of heart. It is not easy. It's rewarding. It's wonderful. It's great, but it will take you out if you are not ready for it. So that's going to be my truthful answer to that. Is like, if you're on the fence, you're not ready.
Yes, and I think telling the difference between what a hobby is and then what a business is so critically important too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I am an advocate for hobbies. If you have a hobby, keep the hobby and keep doing it as a hobby, and don't turn it into a business unless you are absolutely certain that that's what you want to do, because a lot of times the love then becomes removed. So you can love a hobby, but now when it's time to, source things and scale things and hire people and all this stuff, then you can take the passion and the love out of it for a while because you're just all about business. So if you want to keep something that you just absolutely love and you just do it to pass time and do it with friends, that is excellent. Because the moment you transition that to business, there's a whole new set of issues and problems that you need to be ready to face. And you can't do it emotionally and be successful. So,
yes, keep the emotional side out of it. On some
yes.
agreement. Yes. So I can't thank you enough for coming on and providing some pearls of wisdom from someone who's successfully, gone into the entrepreneurial world and is now doing her best to bring those along. I can't say thank you enough for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. This was so fun.
And so for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe and like our Pen Leader podcast. We are excited to have your feedback. You can provide that to info@mazeassociatesltd.com. And until next time.
The Pen Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Maze & Associates Ltd, creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.mazeassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader podcast and share with others.